Hey, and welcome back to Soaring Profits Live. This is our special live performance. As you know out there, we like to interview people on Thursday nights and we get to know them well and we get to know their stories. And after we talked to Clay, who is an ultra runner, he does so many great events. Not only does he run them he himself, but he also actually runs them so that he makes them happen. The Canal event I plan on running myself, and I'm looking the Canal Pursuit. I'm looking forward to running it in August. But he emailed us and he said, I cannot believe that I didn't talk about my motorcycles, which is funny because a friend of mine, Janelle, who knows him quite well, said, so how often did he mention his motorcycles? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And she's like, he really likes his motorcycles. So when Clay messaged me and said, hey, I can't believe I didn't talk about my motorcycles, I said, well, we gotta hear about these. So Clay, welcome back to the show. You're such an interesting fellow that we just had to have you back on. I know that our conversation here would be just as good as the last one. Can you tell us about your first motorcycle, why you fell in love, and where we are today with the motorcycles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. How much time do we have? I could talk about motorcycles as much as I could talk about running, I guess. So my first motorcycle, I was just thinking about that today. When I was 15, shortly after my 15th birthday, living in Saskatoon, in a province where you could get a learner's permit to drive at the age of 15 and a full license at 16. We moved to Thunder Bay in Ontario, where you couldn't get a learner's permit until you were 16. So that summer I was 15, I was heartbroken that we were moving to someplace where I couldn't drive. So struck a deal with my dad. I'd come up with half the money, he came up with the other half, and I bought a little dirt bike. One of those Honda Trail 50s, little weed motorcycle with the fat tires.
Yeah.
And I rode that thing everywhere and learned how to crash and all the good stuff. I was also, well, a lot like I am now, mechanical guy, and it was great on the trails, but it wasn't fast enough on the roads, this little thing. So I had to figure out how to make it faster. So I had the carburetor apart and figured out how to file down the throttle stop so I could open the carburetor up a little bit more and get that extra 10 miles per hour. And so that thing I had for 2 or 3 years, I guess. And eventually, when I bought a car, I had to sell the motorcycle. Sadness, trombone, right?
But was there a wife involved? Is that why you had to sell the motorcycle?
Not yet. So I met my first wife, my only wife. She's just over there. In my last year of high school, and I think in my second year of university, I bought a street bike and rode that. So I was going to school in Toronto, and in the summers lived in Thunder Bay. So I remember, I think my first trip from Toronto to Thunder Bay after school was over, it was May 1st. Driving to Thunder Bay, and at zero budget, so I couldn't afford a motel or anything. I packed all my stuff on the back of the bike and some extra newspapers. I had a pair of leather pants, but by the time I got to I think it was like Marathon or something like that, it had just gotten dark. It was getting down to freezing or 2 degrees or something like that, and I had put on all of my clothes, everything that I had packed in my suitcases, I was wearing, and I was still freezing. Yeah. So I ended up
pulling over. You had 2 pairs of gloves? Well, we are going through the Rockies.
Yeah, right.
Does anyone know? You know what I'm talking about? Dumb and Dumber, the clip?
That was about it. We didn't have internet for weather forecasts or anything, right? That's it, right? Yeah. This was, when was that? 1980. 81 or 82, something like that. So
we weren't very sure what the weather was going to be, just especially in Canada. Like it might.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, north of Lake Superior, right?
Right.
So ended
There's
up staying
nothing
in a hotel.
Like that would have been a long drive. I've done it myself in a car, and you just go for miles. There's one gas station, I think, right in the middle there, just above Lake Superior. And it says it's the last gas station for miles, and it's not kidding. Like you are in the middle of nowhere where you have to keep on like wiping your headlights because they're covered in bugs. So I could not imagine how many bugs you ate on that trip.
Not so many when it's 5 degrees, right?
True. That's true. Yeah.
So I checked into the Pick Motel. I remember PIC, Pick Motel, and into a room that had a bathtub, fortunately, and just filled the tub with warm water. Took me about an hour to get the shivers off, but after
come back up to temperature.
Long, so I cooled the water off with my body and had to run another one to warm it up. But got back up to temperature. But I kept that bike for a few years, I guess. I worked again, lived in Thunder Bay after school and worked in Atikokan, which is about 120 kilometers west.
Yeah.
And I worked nights for quite a while, and I'd slept 6 nights a week because on the weekends I would be a day shift on my own time. Right. So that motorcycle took me back and forth to Atikokan a ton of times. Wow. And had one really close moose encounter about halfway to Atikokan once. Yeah. I was on a left-hand curve, and a lot like you've driven up there. There's a lot of those curves where there's a guardrail on the right, so it's just the post of the guardrail, and the road goes down a hill on the right, and all I could see is the tops of the trees. So I'm coming around this curve, and a great big moose came over the guardrail and onto the highway just as I was going by. And if I'd had like a half a second, I could have reached out and slapped it in the head as it went by. And as soon as I was by, I looked in the rearview mirror, and he was on the other side of the road already. So I was so close. Wow. And I would not have had a chance if I'd made contact. So I took the next opportunity.
Something about that with the moose facet is I don't think a lot of people, and us here in Canada, we have them, an hour or two away from where we are. You can be in moose country. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people that really understand how big these animals are.
Yeah, for sure.
And all of a sudden,
like I say, I would reach up and slap him in the face. There's no reaching sideways there.
No, if a rig hit them, their day is done. Like if a trucker hit a moose, his day is done. Yeah. He's going home in a tow truck. Yeah. So your day would have been done. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, sure. Totally. Because it would be as big as your motorcycle and you combined. Mm-hmm. Easily.
For sure.
Yeah, those things are terrifying. And they're not fooling around, because when I went up that way, they mentioned that you shouldn't drive at night, because that's when the moose are most active going across that road. And if you are driving at night, go slow and pay attention. And so I know I was a bit freaked out myself.
In my days when I was hunting with my father and my 2 brothers, we picked out our hunting area. That railroad. My father worked for the railroad, and he knew about every single moose train collision because it was part of his territory. So we hunted in the region where there was the highest train moose collision incidents.
Right.
And we got moose.
I bet
you got a moose.
Yeah, the trains didn't kill them all.
That's
right. So Clay, you come from a place where at 15 years old, Saskatchewan, you're able to drive this piece of machinery around. You're coming to Ontario now. What did that do for you in regards to planting that seed of that like technology, wanting to see how things work, working on your bike, developing that, and then eventually your engineering career? Was that like, how did that plant the seed for you?
Yeah, I think that was. I think the seed was planted well before that. When we lived in Saskatoon as a new teenager and a young kid, my dad was he worked for the railroad, but he was also a bush pilot as a part-time thing, because the town we lived in northern, going way further back, the town we lived in northern Manitoba had 1 train a day. So it didn't take him a lot of time to do his railroad work in a day. Right. So anyway, he got his pilot's license, and to save a ton of money on mechanics, aircraft have to be inspected and certified once a year.
Yep.
So to save a bunch of money on that, he went to school and became an aircraft mechanic.
Wow.
So he could certify
Just like an afternoon gig.
Yeah.
Why not?
Left for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't even remember the time he was. I was so young. I don't even remember the time he was away. I was probably 5 or 6 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
But he was always fixing something. When we were in Saskatoon, he got an old car. So it was early 1970s, and it was an old car for the 70s.
Right.
So anyway, got an old. I think it was a German Carmen Ghia, which was made by Porsche and Volkswagen, right?
Wow. So he taught you how to hold the flashlight?
yeah, light, Aziz. Taught me how far you can throw a wrench.
He taught you how to like take apart a carburetor, back then that's what you did. Like now I don't even know if you can take apart a carburetor. Like definitely. Carburetors are all computerized now, but back then I remember watching my dad, and he would like mess with the screws and try to get you could take it all apart. So that's what he was doing, but with airplanes.
Yeah. When I was in university, my spring break right now time, Dad would take a week off of working for the railroad and go to the Thunder Bay Flying Club, who owned a few airplanes, and do maintenance and inspections, and I would be his helper. Wow. So I'd spend my spring break earning a few bucks as a mechanics helper and learning how to take airplane engines out, change them out, and the inspections. And I got to do a little flying too. They had to do a test flight after each certificate inspection. So, yeah, it was awesome.
I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. When I was in university, after now let's keep with that same motorcycle. So I still had that street motorcycle. It was a Yamaha XS400, and after school was done and we started a family, I still had this 400, and I think when our daughter was getting close to a year old, the first summer after she was born, I thought I should sell this thing because it was just too tempting to open the throttle and do all the things that risky teenagers do, right? So sadly I sold the motorcycle and didn't get another for a long time. A friend, kind of parallel to that, who was in the pharmacy program at University of Toronto, got a Harley. So I visited him a couple times, and I rode his Harley a couple times over the years, and thought, there you go. I put a little windshield on the front of it, and I put a lot of miles on that one.
I just thought I'd give everyone kind of an idea of what you drove and almost hit a moose with.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no crash bars, no roll cage.
No. How fast would you be going on this thing, Bob? Not Bob, sorry. Clay. Sorry, I was just talking to Bob. I apologize. Clay, how fast do you think you're going on this little machine?
Yeah, probably, I don't know, 70 miles an hour or something like that.
Towards a moose.
Yeah.
The 1,200-pound moose.
The moose was on an intersecting vector.
Yeah. So then you had a daughter. Sorry, I cut you off. I just wanted to get an idea.
That's all right. No, it's I sold it. I sold that thing.
Yeah.
So rode friends' Harleys a couple times, and really got it into my head over years and years, like kind of a bucket list thing. I want a Harley Dynaglide. Of all the models, FLH and FXD and all of those numbers and things, I'd like a Dynaglide. So I had focused on a Dynaglide, which is basically a small, considered to be a street. It's called a cruiser, so it's considered to be a street as opposed to a highway bike or a touring bike.
Yep.
Street bike, so relatively little frame but a big engine. So in in 2015, I was living in the north end of Waterloo, and they were putting in an LRT system. And there was going to be a station within about 900 meters of where I was living. And I thought about maybe taking the LRT to work. The other end of or at the other end, part way down, the nearest station to work was about 3 kilometers away from work. And that was a little bit too far to walk. I could run it every day, but there's not showers at work, and I just don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to be a smelly kid.
No. So I thought, how about a scooter, like an electric, one of those like a skateboard or kick scooter electric. Yeah. And around that time, so I did a bunch of research, and around that time, there wasn't a lot. They hadn't been around for a long time. That wasn't a brand name that stuck out as the reliable or the good brand or anything. And they were already kind of expensive, right? $1,600, $2,000 for this lithium-ion powered thing, and that was a lot of money to take a gamble on. So, but it would have been perfect for the LRT, because I could ride it down to the train, fold it up, have it beside me when I take the train, and you can get them with big fat tires, so you can go in the winter or part of the winter anyway.
Right.
So looking for this scooter, and then I saw an ad for an electric motorcycle, so a full-on motorcycle. A company called Zero had been making them for a few years already, and they had a dealership up in Mitchell.
Okay. North of you guys.
So I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if there are any used ones. Although they're not old enough yet to be people selling used ones.
Yeah.
But the new ones were, at that time, I think it was 2016, 2015. The new ones were $20,000, $22,000 for an electric motorcycle. And I thought, that's a lot of money. You could buy a Harley for that amount of money. I wonder how much a used Harley is. So I started looking for used Harleys. I saw a Dynaglide that was, at that time, it was already 12 or 13 years old. The price looked kind of okay. So I made the guy an offer, and he accepted it. So I went out looking for an electric scooter and got a Harley.
That's quite the mix-up.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It is definitely a different, like the Harley and the electric are definitely different systems.
Yeah. So I love it. I think that's fantastic. That's a very cool transition from not so green. I know we're trying to go green here, Clay, but that's I think that's fantastic. And there's nothing like a Harley when you first crank them up. That I don't know why they have that Harley sound. Maybe you have a little insight into that with the engineering background, but that there's nothing like it in the world.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
Yep. Potato, 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 potato.
There you go. Right.
Exactly. Is that kind of what you were driving?
Yeah. We don't say driving though. We call it riding.
Riding. Sorry. It's like running and jogging.
That's it. Yeah, I'm not a jogger.
No. I made that mistake once. I said that I'm a jogger. They're like, no, you're not. You're a runner. Don't ever say that again. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, no, I was very close when I was a younger man. I was very close to buying, and this was the first year they came out with the Harley V-Rod.
Okay,
and
wow, nice.
Those things were like $30,000 at the time. And I don't know, James, you've got the magic button there if you want to pull one of those bad boys up.
Harley
V-Rod.
V-Rod. Yeah.
And the look of these things at the time, they just looked like something out of Batman. They were wild. And the way that they were done, the advertising they did around them, the branding was so slick. And here I am, I'm like, I know nothing about bikes. The last time I had rode anything on two wheels, I ended up, Buddy, he had a dirt bike. He was a big dirt biker. And I ended up almost killing myself in the back, like 40 of a field, because I pinned it coming back to the house. And it went out from underneath me, came back, hit me in the back of the head, and headed off into the trees.
Oh,
that
man.
was my experience with
there it is.
Up to that point.
That's what you're looking at there.
Oh,
yeah.
This is not a thing.
That's a slick machine. Yeah.
Yeah. What are they asking price wise? What can you look at there? Like new, they were 30-ish at the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure because
Do they? I don't even know if they still make them new. I think that
No,
was,
I don't think they do. And they
Yeah.
they had a limited production run when they were making them.
yeah, they
They're
were
really
super
revolutionary for Harley, right? Like a big change from most of the Harley
right.
line that was available up until then. Frame is outside of the engine instead of just going under it and over it. That's kind of neat. But
yeah.
that I'm pretty happy with the Dynaglide. It uses a carburetor instead of fuel injection. It's
Okay.
got a simple ignition system. So I've actually had the carburetor apart a couple times and rebuilt it because they get kind of gummed up if you let them sit in the winter.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just a fun thing. It's definitely a maintenance thing. I've got a good friend who rides a Goldwing, and he's got a couple of them, I think, like 1985, 1986 with like 350,000 kilometers on them. And
Well, they got a Honda Civic engine in them, don't they?
it purrs like a kitten. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, no maintenance. You don't have to do change the oil once in a while. And
That's
about it.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, they're great big, and they're luxury cruisers, basically, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about the Spiders? I've thought about like getting, because I'm an old man and I don't know anything about motorcycles. I thought like a Spider's pretty stable.
They are, and people call them motorcycles. I prefer not to.
You have to give up like your manhood, I think, to own one. I think that's what he's saying.
You give up your manhood? Is that how it is?
Yeah.
Your cool card gets distributed back to you later.
Yeah, but they got a huge cult following. I remember I was out for a ride somewhere near Niagara Falls, and so the Niagara Parkway, I think it's called, that goes from Niagara Falls down along the river to Queenston, and what's the other Niagara on the Lake. Cruising up there, and there were like 40 of them in a row in a big group, and they all pulled into this parking lot, and they were all high fives and stuff. It was kind of neat.
And you walked up to him and said, "You're not real motorcycle guys."
Yeah, but I like your trikes, boys.
Man card, please. Yeah. You don't see a lot of like Hell's Angels or Satan's Choice riding those tricycles.
No.
Yeah. Guys
No,
flying
I think even the big, Harley factory builds now trikes, right, with the big car tires on the back, and it's a little different demographic. So I think I'm not far from the average age of a person who rides a Harley now. So I'm well below the average income, though. I think a lot of Harley owners are professionals and well established in life financially. You've got to be, if you're going to pay $35,000 for a big motorcycle and ride it 3 times a year, and I shouldn't talk too much. Ride it 3 times a year and leave it parked in your garage and waxed,
and then insurance and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah, I really got interested, or got kind of caught a wanderlust when I saw my niece, who lives in northern Manitoba, bought I think it's a knucklehead, a mid-60s Harley, in any case. Big fat forks, big fender, rusty looking, like an old piece of junk looking thing. There's a bottle opener bolted onto one of the fenders, and one of those Auga horns with a ball. Yeah. And she does her own maintenance on it. She rode from northern Manitoba to Joshua Tree, California.
Wow.
For a girls' biker event.
That's cool.
And I followed her. Like, she posted a bunch of stuff on Facebook as she's going through, and her oil leak that she fixed 3 times on the way down, and an exhaust leak she had to do some extra taping and wiring and stuff. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, see, like that sort of bike right there, like that's so reminiscent of like the Indian motorcycle day.
Yeah,
the stuff that they're recreating even now, like that is so popular for my generation of people.
Yeah,
we want that old style look. It's so cool. Click on that one on the bottom there, the blue one there, James. Yeah,
that's good looking bike. Yeah.
That's a bike. Look at that thing.
But that's all history, right? That's all.
Yeah. See, I hate to know what that's worth.
If you drove that, that's
Yeah,
it.
really.
And the whole time had to like take it apart, fix it. Now, so Pat's learning.
Yeah.
Pat's learning that to be a boat owner, you have to be able to fix things on the slide. Like while you're in the water, going towards the waterfall, you got to be able to fix the engine. Is that kind of the thing you got going on with motorcycles as well? That you kind of, while you're going down the road, you got to, there's a lot of maintenance.
Or you have to be prepared for it anyway.
Yeah.
So I took a trip down to Alabama. Last summer. I hadn't been to the Gulf Coast before, so I've done a fair amount of traveling.
I love the Gulf Coast.
Yeah,
Gulf Shores, awesome. Floribama, the whole area down there. I love it.
Yeah. It was 11 days. I headed down to Alabama, and then on the way back, kind of across to Texas through Oklahoma, and a big loop through Missouri. It was stinking hot the whole time. But I was thinking. So at one point I went through a really wicked thunderstorm. It was pretty exciting in a scary sort of way. But this thunderstorm, one of my turn signals was leaking a little bit, and water got onto one of the bulbs and burnt out a light bulb. And that's the only mechanical problem I had on this 11-day thing. On the second last day, going through Michigan, I ended my day near Flint, Michigan. I really started thinking, holy crap. So I got on a 20-year-old motorcycle and trusted it to carry me for 5,000 or 6,000 kilometers without planning any downtime at all. And it never let me down. It was good. That's so amazing. I'll say that's because of my very expert maintenance. That's right. That's got.
Well, I was going to make like the blinker fluid joke in there, but it seems like you figured it out, right?
I got to figure it out. It gave me an excuse to stop at a Harley dealership and say hi. So,
perfect.
Yeah, so that's amazing, man. But that's it. Like it's the new stuff is what breaks down all the time. That's the new stuff is what you can't rely on.
Well, yeah, and then how do you fix a computer that's got a glitch, right? You're toast.
Well, that's what James was saying. Problem is that my boat situation, and that's exactly what it was. You know, it's the motor in this boat. Like I've got a bow rider, about a 20-foot bow rider that I know nothing about boats. Never been mechanically inclined guy whatsoever. I buy this boat last year, and the thing was perfect until it wasn't. I'm sitting there on literally in this little channel, no room, no nothing, and I've got a starter problem. And it's the original starter in a 20-year-old motor on this boat. Everything else has been fantastic. And I'm sitting there, I'm hitting it. I'm like praying. I've everything I could possibly come up with. And I'm like, I'm euchred. I've got to realize that this is something that's above my pay grade. We're going to get this fixed. We'll go from there. And I can't wait to get back out this summer. Right. One of those things is that little bit of maintenance, that little bit of understanding about how everything works. Like I had ever Googled or YouTubed how, an outboard motor starter works. Yeah. I know all of it now. I know how to rebuild you a new one if I needed to now. It didn't help me a lot on my last day of boating last year. But I love that. And it's really cool new skill set that, if you don't have that opportunity, you don't maybe become an engineer if you've never had that growing up, right? So
yeah, for sure. So a couple of years ago, holy cow, 4 years ago now, a couple. I was at a Christmas party and talking with some friends, and of course the conversation eventually got around to motorcycles, and our friend Lindsay said, "Yeah, my dad's had this Harley in his garage since I was a kid." Oh yeah, what kind of Harley? Oh, I don't know. It's just a Harley. It's in pieces. And so I said, if he ever considers selling it, let me know. I want to know a little bit more about what this is and the story behind it. So about 5 months later, her father lived up in Blind River, so up near Sault Ste. Marie.
I know
And
exactly.
she was up there visiting, and she sent me a text message and a picture of this motorcycle frame lying on the front lawn. And she said it's a 1948 Harley Hummer. So I quickly did a bunch of research, and James is going to do some research now.
Right
Harley
now,
Davidson S125 Hummer.
Wow.
So I did a little looking, and
You get anything pre-40, like 45-ish, that's a special piece of machinery.
Well, the thing is, the design for this motorcycle was one of the spoils of war that came out of Germany. So a lot of technology came out of Germany, and went to the Allies. So this motorcycle is one of those things. A design went to Harley Davidson, one went to BSA in England, one went to Yamaha, one went to Russia. So all based on this 125 that had been proven in Germany for 10 or 15 years. And so I started the conversation, how much do you want for it? And ended up buying it.
Yeah.
She said, yeah, it's more like that one you were just at, that light blue one.
Light blue. That one?
It was the main one, bottom left-hand corner. Yep.
With saddlebags and everything on it?
No, just it's just got like a big bicycle seat.
Yeah, so it's the basic bicycle frame, old school with the engine attached. Really?
Yeah. It's a little bit bigger than a bicycle, and the seat that it had on it was a homemade seat with some like vinyl on it tacked on. It was the ugliest looking thing. But anyway, I did a little more research. So once I got the bike here, by the way, Lindsay said the engine is up in the attic.
Wow.
So it might be a project.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she didn't say it was in 3 boxes up in the attic. I found that out after I got it here. So the engine is still apart. Actually, I'm kind of fortunate. I work for a company that manufactures gears and does splines and stuff. So I've got the main drive sprocket on our production floor. Don't tell my boss.
I won't.
But a few little parts for the engine still in our shop, but I've started to put it back together. I looked at the serial number, and it's a really low serial number in the first production year in North America for the bike, and based on how many were made in that year and where the serial number is, it was probably made within the first 3 weeks of production.
No way.
So yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So
little Operation Paperclip as they brought everything over, right?
Yeah. They all the part numbers had a 47 in it, which meant they were doing all the design work in 1947 and then started production in 1948. Kind of cool. So I've had I got it. I think about it in the February just before the pandemic started, so that'd be 2020, right? So
how long do you think it's been taking to get it roadworthy?
I'm not sure. I'm a little worried about getting the parts I need for the engine, and I need to either retire or get a clone or something to have a little more time. But I've rebuilt the wheels. The rims were rusted through, so I got new rims and got new spokes. There's a ton of aftermarket stuff available for these, so I guess a lot of them were sold through the years. And I've stripped everything down, stripped the frame all down, and started to put it back together. So I've got the on, the front forks on, and bought a new seat for it. Put the tank on just so I could take some pictures of it and see what it's going to look like.
Right.
I was actually able to sit on it, and that was fun.
No doubt.
Anyway,
but a piece of history, though, right? Like when Clay Williams gets, who's been a bike guy since 15 years old, when he gets the opportunity to sit his ass down on something 47, 48, like that's such a piece of motorcycle history that you get to kind of dive in and experience and enjoy and own, and like that's a story.
Recreate it to original status,
right?
Take it to bike shows and stuff, and
yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's got the fenders and tank are a little bit beat up and nicks, and I struggled with whether I should strip it down or repaint it, because a lot of the rebuilds I see on social media, they completely strip it down, use the body filler, and have a nice glossy bike. And I'm gonna leave all the old paint on and put a bunch of wax on it, and that's it. So it's still gonna have the dings, and it's still gonna have all the little rust spots and that sort of thing. And
Clay, I agree 100%. Like, there's nothing worse than you see, a car. And I'm a big like Corvette guy, like a Stingray out of like the 60s, early 60s, kind of like that. Like I just think there's nothing better. When I make the bajillion dollars, that's what I'm buying. There's nothing worse than it being perfect.
Yeah.
Not supposed to be. Like you have a 65 Corvette Stingray, that baby blue color they had. There should be some imperfections in a 50-year-old vehicle.
Yeah, they were perfect coming out of the factory until they got onto the showroom floor, and then they started getting smudges and in life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why they lose it.
James, look up like a 63 Stingray, Corvette Stingray.
I like 63 is my favorite year. I love that.
Right? Like, aren't they? Convertible, just gorgeous. Like the body, the design work that went into those cars.
No, they're a beautiful car. You're not wrong. Well, I got a red one.
Blue. You gotta have a blue.
You're asking a
lot.
Like
having the tech guy on the side here, right, Clay?
You're asking a lot.
Yeah, right. It's awesome.
You guys keep talking among yourselves. Like,
I'm waiting for my car. Hurry up.
I'm looking for it. Right there. There it is. Oh,
there you go.
Every time I press on it, it disappears. There it is. It's a beautiful car.
Baby blue, is that what it is, or it's a darker?
So gorgeous. This is also the car that I am looking forward to owning someday. So that's funny. We haven't had this conversation. So this is the one that I like. Right there.
Nice.
63 Corvette Stingray. It's got the lights that pop up, and it's nice and sleek. And it's not like the same shape as every other car on the road. That's what I like.
Now, what I would like to know is what that one is worth today.
So
the last couple of years, collector cars have gone crazy. We're looking recessionary, the cost of goods. How has that affected those cars? Like, what is the big auction they do down in Florida and Arizona?
Barrett-Jackson.
Barrett-Jackson.
Yeah, I've got a friend who goes to the Barrett-Jackson auction every year.
See, I'd love to know what they're getting for those guys right now. Something in and around that year. That kind of like, look at that thing. That thing is stunning.
Yeah, it says sold, but it's not telling me a price here.
No way.
No. But it's been sold.
But do you remember a thing about 2 years ago? A sinkhole in the middle of a Corvette storage, like a Corvette showroom, a guy's personal collection.
Oh no!
Yeah, like 15 old Corvettes, and most of them ended up falling into this sinkhole.
He was getting divorced and wasn't giving her any. Is what that story was.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh man.
Could you imagine?
That's an expensive sinkhole.
You just cry.
It is.
How does that work for insurance? Like, is that act of God type situation, or like
really?
Doing that?
Oh, okay. Here you go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at that.
Is that snow?
I don't know.
I think it was someplace warm.
There you go.
Sinkhole Corvettes.
God, I would just cry. Could you imagine walking into that? Look at that. That's it. I'm done.
Just jump in the hole with them.
Yeah. You could probably afford that one, Pat. Right there.
I got a boat.
That's true. You do have a boat. You can't afford anything.
That's it. Oh, that's funny.
And I just left Portugal, so I can't afford anything either.
Yeah.
It'll be a while until I get to go anywhere.
No.
So anyway, what's the next bike? What do you? So you got this one, this project, that you're working on right now, and do you have a bike in mind after that, or when you're looking at to get now, or are you just hoping to accidentally find another one in a barn?
Yeah, who knows? I'm kind of keeping my eyes open, but I'm not really looking right now. So I've been thinking, because of these long road trips that I've been going on, it'd be nice to have like a big touring bike with all the bags and stuff. But I don't know. I just don't want all the baggage. The Dynaglide, I ride back and forth to work in all summer, right?
Right.
And so it's my kicking around bike. So I just put a little bit more luggage on it to head out on a road trip. And yeah, we'll see. It's got getting a few miles on it, and I've seen recently a guy somewhere in Toronto area advertises about once a week a different damaged motorcycle.
Oh.
So, and they can be relatively new ones. So some of them are not. So they get tagged. If the frame is bent at all, they have to get scrapped. They're not registerable again, right? And there's a serial number on the frame. So I'm thinking maybe if there's a deal on one with an engine that's looks like it's okay, I could rebuild the engine, make sure I got a good solid engine, change it out of my Dynaglide.
Who is this guy?
Might as well.
I'm gonna rebuild the engine.
Because I'm not sure. I mean, how many miles can I put on the one I've got, right?
Dynaglide. You're gonna need another one, yeah. So I do have one more question for you, Clay. Airplane. Pat and I have this dream that one day we will own an airplane ourselves because we both want to be pilots one day. So
I've spent a little time. I've kind of done some homework on this. So.
Yeah. So do you currently do anything with airplanes? And do you still have your pilot's license?
No. I had my glider's license for a while, and after moving away from home and Dad's let's say involvement with the flying club, I couldn't afford to keep up a pilot's license. So
that's what we learned.
Not doing anything. Yeah, I think the last time I was in a plane. Last time I touched the controls, and I've flown power planes a few times, but always as a second with my dad flying. Right. So last time I did that was probably early 1990s or something like that. My dad sold his last airplane. He had a 1940s Navion, which was a low wing plane with a sliding cockpit, and I remember him dropping. Yeah, I remember him getting a permit to fly without the canopy, so that he could drop off parachuters.
Wow.
And he was really ticked off because one of them ripped one of his seats. But
I love that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Even his was the only Navion I was aware of. Yeah, that's it.
See, I think that's so cool. Like, there was such a generation of flyers back then, that guys that came from the RAF, they fought in the war, they came back here, they trained afterwards, and in the 60s and 70s, these were guys that were like honing the craft of aviation. And where do you go now? You go to like Tim's School of Flying. Yeah. It's a wild process now.
Yeah.
It's just so much different. Wow. It's something I've always wanted to do and love, and such a passion of mine. Like, I really do enjoy doing it, but it's one of those things that, you start at about $10,000. You quickly get to about 15 by the time you get any flight from India. And it's like, I can spend I can invest $15,000 1,000 different ways, other than into a plane that I then have to buy later. For 70.
Boat maintenance, for example.
Maybe a starter.
Yeah, he's getting funny with us here now. That's good.
So try think about starting with flying gliders. I know there are a few gliding clubs.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper. In order to get your glider's license, you have to take a ground school, so you learn about meteorology and a lot of the basics, and that'll give you kind of a flavor for what's going to be involved in powered flight, right? Or in the schooling for powered flight anyway. But flew gliders for a couple of summers, and it was, having grown up in a power aircraft, my first solo flight in a glider was amazing. I was towed up. Actually, my father flew the tow plane that towed me up to altitude.
Nice.
And
I don't know why you did that one. Oh my goodness. I've got a 13-year-old daughter. The idea of being the guy, it's like,
release them.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That
what
might
we
be
do.
true. Yeah, to pull the cord, but you know that he's going to be fine. Well, that's an interesting idea. I'd really like to try that out.
Yeah.
Clay, we have to be careful because if we hit past the hour, then it complicates my life, and I have to do like 6 different things to get this video up. So we're going to call it. I love the fact that we had you back on. The stuff that you're talking about is so interesting. I don't know very much about motorcycles, but I have always thought that one day I might own one. But I'm also terrified of them. So I don't know, especially when there's boots in Canada. So, but I really appreciate you coming on, Clay. Thank you very much for your knowledge and sharing your stories. And I'm sure we'll have you on again because you're just a delight to talk to. I know that in August, we're going to do some filming for your canoe pursuit. I have to do some fundraising for that. I just saw the way you lay out the fundraising is so easy. Like it's literally click, 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 and everyone can just send me money. I love it. It made my life so easy. I haven't started it yet because we're so far advanced, but
whatever. Oh, no worries.
Is amazing.
Yeah. I'll usually start bugging the runners, alerting the runners around May or so, maybe a little bit earlier, late April. That now's the time to start your campaign and get it in people's faces. So
that's what I was thinking too, because I think if you tell people now, then they're like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm going to give them money, and then they forget. But if you do it like right before, then they do it right away. Anyway, I'm looking forward to doing all that and joining you for that. And I look forward to seeing your new motorcycle done. Right. I think that 1940 motorcycle be pretty interesting to see in real person. This week, this Thursday, because this will be aired probably tomorrow. We have Dara, a really good friend of mine, cancer survivor. She also was spotlighted in Pink in the Rink, which is a fundraiser that we do here in Peterborough, where she personally raised money for cancer through a video. And I showed that video today on some of our social media. I think you should check it out. She is not only a very brave woman, but a very intelligent woman. And I can't wait for you all to meet her. Close personal friend of mine. And it's going to be just a great conversation. And so I hope to see you then. Let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together. Patrick?
Yeah, Clay, pal, it's great to have you back. Thank you again for joining us. We're working on a little project behind the scenes right now that's going to have us down your neck of the woods. And when we do, we'd love to have a drink with you and maybe grab a meal with you and go from there. We'll definitely give you the heads up on that. Clay, obviously, we've heard your stories about, starting off at 15 years old in Saskatchewan and starting that love of engineering and where that goes. And as a father of a young lady who's, starting that career path of herself, those journeys, I love hearing stories like that, like those little inspirational pieces and what they lead to later on in life. I love that, pal. So as always, folks, really cool story that's going to be going on Thursday night with Dara. I think it's going to be a bit of an emotional one for James. We'll see how that goes. But definitely, was one of the big cancer sponsorships here with the Peterborough Petes hockey team here locally, raised thousands of dollars for a fantastic cause. So definitely tune in on Thursday. And Clay, we leave you with the last word here. So as always, folks, let's make some money together. And Clay, you're up, pal.
All right. Well, thanks so much for connecting with me again. And I really enjoy talking about motorcycles. I guess that kind of shows. And I appreciate your interest in candor. I like talking with you guys. You guys are great. We'll do it again. Maybe we'll talk about solar panels sometime. Did I talk about solar panels?
Solar panels. That's next. Here we go.
So we got to do that now because, like, me as my investment self, I'm all like, where do I go next with the green evolution and all that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Clay, you just keep bringing yourself back. You just stay relevant on so many different topics, pal. I love it.
A plant a seed. Think about used solar panels, all the ones that were installed in 2000 when the FIT program first started, and those contracts are done now. Anyway.
Okay, hang on. We got to stop because I invest in this company called Canadian Solar, and we're going to have a chat after.
Yeah.
We're just going to say goodbye to all the profiteers at this time.